Samantha Whitmore thought the end of the year would bring clarity. Instead, it brought a decision she'd been avoiding for a long time. She arrived at the lake with a key biting into her palm and the kind of silence that only winter could afford. The key was old brass worn smooth by 100 nervous turns. It looked harmless. It felt like a decision. Her phone buzzed again before she could even pull into the gravel driveway. Mara, he'll be there tomorrow. Just sign it, Sam. Easy money, clean ending. Sam stared at the message while her breath fogged up the windshield. Beyond the glass, the cabin sat tucked between snow-laden pines. Its porch light off, its windows dark, as if it had been holding its breath since her aunt died. Tomorrow. She hadn't even stepped inside, and already someone wanted her to hand it away like a leftover party platter. Great. New Year's Eve. Champagne. Resolutions. An emotional blackmail gift wrapped as what's best for you. Sam turned the engine off. The quiet rushed in thick and soft and brutally honest. Snow drifted against the porch steps, erasing footprints before anyone could claim them. She flexed her fingers around the key. Inside that cabin was a story she hadn't looked at in years. Outside it, tomorrow was the familiar pressure to make things easy for everyone else. Sam swallowed, the cold catching at the back of her throat. She wasn't here to be easy. She was here to decide if she could stop asking permission, especially from people who weren't the ones living with the consequences. And the lake, flat and dark in the distance, waited like it already knew her answer. Samantha Whitmore was 41 years old, curvy in a way that made sweaters look like an invitation, and competent in a way that made people assume she'd say yes before they even finished asking. She'd made a career out of turning other people's spaces into places they could breathe in warm lighting, practical storage, colors that soothed instead of screamed. She could walk into a room and know within seconds what didn't work. The problem was, she'd spent too many years doing that with her own life too, fixing, smoothing, adjusting. Not because she didn't know what she wanted. Because wanting something usually made someone else uncomfortable. Sam lifted the carrier on the passenger seat, where Penny stared back at her with mournful, judgmental eyes. Penny was a senior beagle with a slightly crooked tail and the uncanny ability to communicate disappointment without moving a single muscle. "I know," Sam told her, as if the dog had spoken. "We're not here to be dramatic." Penny blinked slowly. Sam sighed. "Fine, we're here to be moderately disruptive." The beagle's ears twitched, unimpressed. Sam had brought Penny because she couldn't bear the idea of walking into that cabin alone. Also because Penny had developed a suspicious habit of barking at men who smiled too much and listened too. Little and incredibly useful skill, if you asked Sam. She grabbed her duffel, her tote full of paperwork, and her travel mug tea with cinnamon. Because coffee sometimes made her feel like her thoughts were sprinting and stepped into the crisp air. The cold hit her cheeks like a truth she couldn't argue with. The cabin sat close to the lake, the shoreline edged in ice. The trees standing guard like they'd been appointed decades ago. A thin string of white lights traced the porch railing, probably left there by her aunt year-round because her aunt believed that cozy was a lifestyle, not a season. Sam climbed the steps, the wood creaking under her boots. She hesitated at the door, not because she was afraid of memories. Because she was tired of living like everything was temporary. Tired of starting over. She'd done that before, quietly, efficiently, with a smile that made people say, "You're so strong," as if strength was an outfit she put on to make them comfortable. She pushed the key into the lock and turned. The door opened with a sigh. Stale air greeted her wood, dust, faint vanilla, and something like old books and cedar. Penny waddled in first, sniffing with the seriousness of a detective. Sam stepped into the small living room and let the silence settle around her shoulders. A knitted throw was draped over the couch. A chipped mug sat on the coffee table, as if someone had simply forgotten to come back. On the mantel there was a photo of her aunt laughing, hair windblown, holding a lantern like she was about to lead a parade down the frozen lake. Sam's chest tightened. "Okay, cool, great. Love that my heart can still do that thing where it squeezes itself for no reason." She set her bag down and pulled off her gloves. Her fingers were stiff, but her mind was already running property papers, sale offers, repair estimates, tax implications. Practical things, safe things. Because if she stayed practical, she wouldn't have to feel the other thing, the grief, the tenderness. The question of what she actually wanted. Her phone buzzed again. Mara, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'll thank me later. Sam stared at the message until the words blurred. Harder than it needs to be. That was always the line, wasn't it? Don't make waves. Don't complicate. Don't take up space. Sam put the phone face down on the table, like she could silence the whole world with that single gesture. Then she looked at Penny. New rule, she told the dog. This year, I'm not translating my boundaries into a language other people like better. Penny sneezed once. Sounded like approval. Sam spent the first 20 minutes doing what she always did when emotions threatened to get too loud. She worked. She opened cabinets, checked the sinks, ran the faucet, flicked light switches. She found extra candles in the kitchen drawer, a flashlight with half-dead batteries, and a box of matches that looked older than her patience. The cabin was solid, sturdy logs, thick windows, but winter had its own opinions. The air had a bite even inside, and the floorboards were cold through her socks. She found the thermostat. It clicked. Nothing happened. She tried the space heater in the corner. It groaned like it resented being asked to live again. Penny padded after her, nails ticking against the wood, occasionally pausing to sniff a spot like she'd discovered a crime scene. Don't start, Sam warned her. Penny stared at her. Sam pointed at the heater. I know. This is what I get for thinking I could waltz in here and be emotionally mature and also warm. She pulled her sweater tighter and moved toward the hallway. The cabin had 2 small bedrooms and 1 bathroom. In the back room, her aunt's room, Sam found a cedar chest at the foot of the bed. The lid was slightly ajar. She didn't remember it being there. Sam crouched, her knees protesting in a way that felt personal, and lifted the lid. Inside were folded blankets, a stack of old letters tied with ribbon, and on top a small envelope with her name written in neat, looping handwriting. Samantha. Her throat tightened again. Of course her aunt had left a letter. Of course she couldn't just leave a cabin. She had to leave a message too, one final gentle shove. Penny sat beside her, weight warm against Sam's shin. Sam slid her finger under the flap of the envelope. The paper inside was soft, the ink slightly faded. It wasn't a long letter. It was more like a note someone wrote when they knew you didn't need a lecture, just a reminder. Sam, if you're reading this, then you're standing where I stood when I decided my life didn't have to be small to be safe. Don't rush. Don't sell your peace to buy someone else's comfort. Stay where you can breathe. Love, Aunt June. Sam read it twice, then a third time, as if the words might change if she looked long enough. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and let the quiet do what it always did in places like this. It made room for the truth. Sam had been moving through the last year like she was bracing for impact work. Deadlines, flights, the occasional dinner with friends where she laughed at the right moments and kept the real stuff tucked behind her teeth. She wasn't lonely, exactly. She had a life, a good one. She had clients who loved her, friends who texted her memes at midnight, a calendar full of reminders that she was, in fact, functional. But there was a difference between being functional and being free. And she had promised herself quietly, in a moment of exhaustion 3 months ago, that she wasn't going to enter another year on autopilot. She'd promised herself she wouldn't start January by making everyone else happy. Outside, a car door slammed somewhere down the road. A distant voice called out. The town wasn't far. Pineharbor Lake had grown up around the water like it knew the lake was the main character. Sam folded the note carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Penny nudged her knee. Yes, Sam murmured. We're going into town. You win, Penny huffed, as if she'd never lost in her life. Pineharbor Lake looked like a postcard someone had edited for maximum comfort. Snow clung to the rooftops. Wreaths hung on doors. Warm light spilled from shop windows like honey. The air smelled like pine, wood smoke, and something sweet, cinnamon, maybe, or caramel. Sam parked near the small main street and stepped out, the cold immediately reddening her cheeks. Penny trotted beside her in a little jacket that made her look like a grumpy professor. People were out despite the cold, bundled up and carrying cups of something steaming. A chalkboard sign outside the cafe read, New Year's Eve lantern walk to 11:30 p.m. Meet at the dock. Bring a lantern. Make a wish. Sam's chest warmed at the sight, despite herself. Of course, this town has a collective midnight activity. Of course they do. Probably with assigned committees and a sign-up sheet and someone named Carol who takes it personally. She walked past a bookstore with a display of winter romances, past a bakery with sugar cookies shaped like stars. Penny pulled toward a shop that smelled aggressively like sausage. Absolutely not, Sam said. We're not buying beef sticks as emotional support snacks. Penny looked at her like Sam had said something cruel and unnatural. Sam sighed. Fine, one. She bought Penny a treat because she was only human and her dog was only Penny. At the corner, she paused to read a community bulletin board. Flyers layered over flyers. Soup drive for the shelter. Volunteer fire department pancake breakfast. Ice safety reminder, respect the lake, cabin owners, winter pipe checklist. Sam's eyes snagged on that last one. She took the little tear-off number at the bottom because yes, she could YouTube her way through a lot of things, but frozen pipes were where pride went to die. Her phone buzzed again. Mara, did you talk to the realtor? He's holding the paperwork for tomorrow. Sam stared at the message, her thumb hovering. This was the moment her old pattern usually took over. The quick yes, the smoothing over, the apology before anyone had even accused her of anything. She could feel it rising in her chest like a reflex. Then she thought of Aunt June's note. Don't sell your peace to buy someone else's comfort. Sam flipped her phone face down in her coat pocket without responding. Penny leaned into her leg, warm and solid. And Sam right there on a snowy street with lights glowing and strangers laughing made a small decision. Not the big one. Not yet. But the first one, she was going to move slowly. She was going to breathe, and if that made someone else impatient, well, that sounds like a them problem. How refreshing. If cozy love stories about real women feel like home to you, subscribe and stay. Sam turned toward the hardware store, Penny trotting beside her like a tiny stern bodyguard, and the town around them hummed with the gentle promise of a night that didn't require fireworks to feel like something was changing. Sam got back to the cabin with 2 paper bags, a coil of pipe insulation she wasn't entirely sure she'd bought correctly, and the specific kind of optimism that only exists before you attempt home maintenance in winter. The sky had already started fading into that early evening blue-gray, the one that made everything look quieter than it actually was. Inside, the cabin greeted her with the same stubborn chill. Okay, Sam announced to the living room, as if the cabin had a customer service department. I brought reinforcements. Please cooperate. Penny trotted in behind her, nose lifted, then immediately made a disgusted sound and looked at Sam like she'd just been betrayed.
I know, Sam told her. It's cold, I'm sorry.
We're not staying forever, Penny's stare suggested. We'll see. Sam set the bags down, peeled off her gloves, and went straight to the thermostat again. Click. Nothing. She tried the space heater. It whined, then it stopped. Sam waited, arms crossed like staring could intimidate electricity into existence. Nothing happened. Great. The heater is doing that thing men in my 20s used to do: show up, make a noise, and then disappear when commitment is required. Sam exhaled slowly through her nose. She was not going to spiral. She was going to be resourceful, adult, capable. She pulled out the little tear-off number she'd taken from the town bulletin board and stared at it. Winter pipe checklist, cabin help call, Sullivan Outdoor and Repair Sullivan. Sam tapped the paper once against her palm like it was a gavel. Fine, she told the cabin. We're calling a professional. Congratulations, you win. Penny sneezed. Sam didn't dignify that with a response. She dialed. A few rings, then a voice low, calm, with the kind of steadiness that made you sit up straighter without knowing why. Sullivan Outdoor and Repair. This is Luke. Sam blinked once, twice, because of course the person on the other end of the line sounded like he drank water and went to therapy. Hi, she said, trying for normal and landing somewhere near mildly flustered. My name is Samantha Whitmore. I'm at the June Whitmore cabin by the lake. The heat isn't doing heat things. There was a pause, like he was picturing the cabin in his head. June's cabin? His tone softened slightly. Yeah, I know it. I'm sorry about June. Sam's throat tightened. She didn't love how easily people here said her aunt's name like it belonged to the town, too. Thank you, she managed. I'm just here for a few days, and it's Very cold. I can be there in 15, Luke said, like it was no big deal. If you're comfortable with that, Sam blinked again. Comfortable. Not, I'll just swing by. Not no problem, sweetheart. Just permission. Yes, she said a beat too quickly. Yes, that would be great. Okay, I'll knock. And I'll stay outside until you tell me otherwise. Sam's mouth went dry. Okay, she echoed, because her brain had apparently decided it was taking the evening off. She hung up and turned to Penny. We have company, she said. Penny stared at her, then flopped down on the rug with the dramatic exhaustion of someone who had seen too much. Same, Sam muttered. Luke arrived exactly 15 minutes later, headlights sweeping across the snow.
He parked with care like he respected the driveway, like he respected everything.
Sam watched through the window, suddenly aware she was in leggings and an oversized sweater and had been wrestling with pipe insulation like it was a personal enemy. It's fine, this is a cabin. Cabins are casual. If anyone judges me, Penny will bite them emotionally. Luke stepped out, tall and broad-shouldered under a worn work jacket. Dark hair peeking from beneath a knit cap, gloves, boots, a toolbox in one hand. He moved with the kind of quiet confidence that didn't ask for applause. He stopped on the porch and knocked 2 firm taps, not too loud. Sam opened the door a crack. Luke stayed on the porch, exactly like he said he would. Hi, he said, and his eyes met hers like he wasn't scanning, wasn't assessing, wasn't doing that thing where some men looked at a woman and immediately started doing math. His gaze just landed, warm, steady. Hi, Sam replied, then cleared her throat because her voice had done something annoying. I'm Samantha? I know, he said, a small smile flickering. Luke. Penny appeared at Sam's ankle with the seriousness of a security guard. Luke's attention dipped to the beagle. And you must be Penny. Penny sniffed once, then sat. Sam's brows lifted. She likes you. That never happens this fast. Luke's smile widened, but he didn't look smug about it. I'm honored? He lifted the toolbox slightly. Is it okay if I come in? Sam stepped back. Yes, please, before we become ice sculptures. Luke crossed the threshold and paused for half a second, like he was taking in the space, not in a nosy way. More like he was respecting the cabin story. June had good taste, he said softly. She did, Sam replied, and the words came out a little too tender. Luke didn't push. He simply nodded, like he understood there were things you didn't poke at with a screwdriver. He moved to the thermostat, crouched, and checked it with efficient hands. Then he tested the heater, listened, and frowned. Okay, he said, we've got a couple things happening. None of them are catastrophic. Sam exhaled. That's my favorite kind of thing. Luke glanced over his shoulder. Mine too. While he worked, Sam hovered a little, pretending she was just observing, not watching the way his sleeves pulled at his forearms when he reached up, or the way he moved like he belonged in winter. Penny sat beside him, alert. Does she always supervise like that? Luke asked. She's management, Sam said. I'm just the intern. Luke huffed a quiet laugh, like he appreciated the joke without needing to make it bigger. He tightened something, then stood. Try it now. Sam flicked the switch. The heater hummed, then blessedly warm air began to breathe into the room. Sam's shoulders dropped. Oh, she said. Oh, thank you. Luke nodded once, as if gratitude was normal and she didn't have to earn the right to say it. Then his eyes flicked to the corner of the table where papers were stacked neat, labeled, the kind of stack that screamed life decision happening. He didn't stare. He didn't comment. He simply asked, You good for tonight? Sam hesitated just a fraction. And Luke noticed, because of course he did. I mean, Sam said, forcing lightness, depends. Does this cabin have a personal vendetta against me? Luke's mouth twitched. If it does, it's subtle. Sam surprised herself by smiling back. A real one. Luke set his toolbox down. I can check the pipes too. It's supposed to get colder overnight. Sam lifted a brow. And you're offering this because you're a good person or because Penny intimidated you? Luke looked at Penny, who stared back with unblinking authority. Both can be true. Sam laughed soft, relieved, and something in her chest loosened, just a little. Luke knelt near the baseboard heater again, his voice steady. You're not from around here. Sam's laugh faded into something quieter. No. Visiting, Luke said, not a question. Something like that, she replied. Luke didn't press. Instead, he said, there's a lantern walk tonight. The town does it every year. If you're here at midnight, you'll see lights out on the lake. Sam swallowed. That sounds dangerously charming. Luke's gaze lifted to her again. Yeah, it kind of is. The room warmed. Penny sat between them like a tiny referee dot, and for the first time since arriving, Sam didn't feel like she was bracing for impact. She felt like she could stand in the middle of her own life without apologizing for taking up space. Careful, Whitmore. Warm air and a respectful ma'am. That's how your brain starts writing fiction. By the time Luke finished checking the pipes wrapping insulation around the vulnerable sections with practiced hands, the cabin had shifted from abandoned memory to something that could hold a person again. Warmth seeped into the corners. The windows stopped looking like they were judging her. Penny curled up on the rug with a sigh that sounded dangerously close to contentment. Luke snapped his toolbox shut. You should be okay, he said. Just let the faucets drip a little overnight. Keeps the lines from freezing. Sam nodded. Got it. Tiny drip. Very glamorous. Luke's eyes crinkled. Winter's not glamorous. It's honest. That hit a little too close to home. Luke hesitated near the door. If anything goes weird, you can call. It's not an inconvenience. Sam's reflex rose immediately. Don't bother him. Don't be needy, don't take. Then she caught herself. New rule, remember? We're not translating our needs into silence. Okay, she said. Thank you, Luke. He nodded once. Good night, Samantha. And he left no lingering, no implied obligation, no, you owe me a coffee. Just presents, offered, and then released. Sam shut the door and leaned her forehead against it for a second. Penny opened one eye. What? Sam whispered. I can have a moment. Penny's eye closed again, as if granting permission. Sam walked back to the table, where her phone sat like a loaded question. She picked it up. 3 missed calls. 2 voicemails. All from Mara. Sam's stomach tightened. She pressed play on the first voicemail because avoidance was an old hobby, but she was trying to retire it. Mara's voice filled the room, brisk, efficient, coded in concern. Sam, call me back. The realtor needs confirmation. The buyer is driving up from Port Mason tomorrow morning, and he's serious. We can't lose this. It's a great offer. This is the cleanest way to close the year. Don't make it complicated. The second voicemail was shorter. Please don't do that thing where you disappear. We're trying to help. Sam lowered the phone slowly. There it was. We're trying to help. Which, in her family's language, often meant, do what makes us comfortable and call it practical. Sam's jaw tightened. She could feel the pattern tugging at her, familiar as gravity. Just sign. Get it done. Don't drag it out. Don't make anyone mad. She looked around the cabin. Aunt June's throw on the couch, the chipped mug, the photo on the mantel with the lantern. Sam pulled the envelope from her bag and reread the note, her thumb tracing the ink. Don't rush. Don't sell your peace to buy someone else's comfort. Stay where you can breathe. Sam's throat burned. Okay, she whispered into the quiet. Okay, Penny lifted her head and thumped her tail once, slow. Sam stood and walked toward the window. Outside, the lake lay under moonlight, dark and smooth, with a thin line of ice along the shore. The trees stood tall, snow-heavy on their branches, as if they'd been holding their own boundaries for centuries. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text. Mara, just be reasonable. You don't even live there. It's a cabin. It's not a life. Sam stared at that sentence until it felt like her eyes might freeze. It's not a life. Her chest tightened, not with grief this time, but with anger, quiet, clean, adult. Because her whole pattern had been built on minimizing herself. It's not a big deal. It's not worth a fight. It's not a life. Sam exhaled. Maybe it wasn't a life. But the choice was. And she was tired of letting other people narrate her story like she was a side character. She grabbed her coat and Penny's leash. Penny rose immediately, suddenly youthful, like the word walk had rewired her joints. I need air, Sam told the beagle. And if I don't get it, I'm going to text my sister something regrettable. Penny wagged her tail like, excellent plan. Let's prevent crimes. The air outside was sharp, the kind that made your lungs work for it. Sam walked slowly toward the lake, Penny's paws crunching in the snow, their breath visible in soft clouds. Near the dock, lanterns were stacked in a wooden crate paper and metal frames waiting to be lit later. A sign was staked into the snow. Please stay off thin, ICE, keep to the marked path. A figure moved near the crate, adjusting the rope line that marked the safe area. Luke. He looked up as Sam approached, not startled, just present. Hey, he said, voice low, like he didn't want to scare the quiet away. Couldn't sleep? Sam stopped beside him, hands shoved into her pockets. I could. I'm choosing not to. Luke's gaze held hers for a beat, then he nodded like that was a valid answer. Penny seems awake too, he observed. Penny sniffed Luke's boot and then stood close to him, as if she'd decided he was now part of their winter survival plan. Luke crouched slightly, offered a gloved hand for Penny to sniff, then straightened again. Everything okay? Sam's instinct was to say yes, to smile, to wave it off, to swallow her discomfort and call it maturity. Instead, she said the truth. My family wants me to sign paperwork tomorrow, she admitted. To sell the cabin, immediately. Luke's expression didn't change in that dramatic way people did when they thought they needed to react for you. He just listened. Sam stared out at the lake. And I can feel myself about to do it. Not because I want to, because it's easier. Luke's voice stayed gentle. Easier for who? Sam's mouth pressed into a thin line. She hated how quickly that question exposed her. For them, she said quietly. Because if I don't, they'll be mad, or disappointed, or, she let out a short laugh, or they'll say I'm being difficult. Like being a person with an opinion is a personality flaw. Luke was silent for a moment. Then he said softly, What do you want, Samantha? If nobody got upset, the words landed in her chest like a warm stone. What do you want? Not what's logical, not what's easiest, not what makes you a good daughter, niece, sister. What do you want? Sam's throat tightened. She didn't answer immediately because she could feel the truth rising, and it was inconvenient. She wanted time. She wanted to sit in the cabin long enough to know if it was a goodbye or a beginning. She wanted to make a choice without someone standing behind her holding a stopwatch and a guilt trip. She wanted God help her space. To not rush, she whispered. To not decide out of fear. Luke nodded, as if that desire made perfect sense. Then don't. Sam's laugh came out a little shaky. That's the problem. I don't trust myself not to fold. Luke didn't say, You're stronger than you think. He didn't give her a speech. He just said, You're here. That's already you not folding. Sam swallowed. Penny leaned into her leg. Luke's eyes flicked to her face steady, respectful. You don't owe anyone a decision on their timeline. Sam's chest warmed, and not just from the cold air making her blood move faster. She looked at him, really looked. 30, maybe? Young enough that her brain wanted to do that old, tired thing where it panicked about numbers. Oh good, here comes the age police. Everyone please take a number and form a line. But Luke wasn't looking at her like she was a curiosity. He was looking at her like she was a whole person. Like her choices mattered. Sam exhaled slowly, the fog of her breath disappearing into the winter night. And, in the quiet between the lanterns and the lake, she asked herself the only question that mattered. Am I choosing or reacting? The answer sat in her chest, calm and clear. Not yet, but she could. She could choose. And the night, cold and honest, didn't argue with her. Okay, Whitmore, one thing at a time. First, breathe. Second, stop selling your piece like it's a clearance item. Sam glanced at Luke. You're working tonight? Luke nodded toward the marked path. Making sure nobody tests the lake with their New Year's confidence. Sam snorted. Ah yes, the annual tradition of I'm invincible because it's midnight. Luke's mouth curved. Exactly. For a second their eyes held and the quiet felt. Full, not heavy. Just present. Luke shifted his weight, giving her space even in the closeness. Do you want to walk a little? Just along the path. He said it like an offer, not an assumption. Sam's shoulders eased. Yes, she said. I do. Penny moved first, because of course she did. And as they started down the lantern-lit rope line, Sam felt it small, but unmistakable. The beginning of her own no. Not spoken yet, but forming, ready. The walk back from the dock was quiet in the way good things were quiet. Not awkward, not loaded, just spacious. Luke kept to her pace without comment, hands in his pockets, shoulders relaxed like he wasn't trying to impress anyone including her. He pointed out the rope line that would guide people later tonight, the way the town volunteers had set lantern stands every few yards so nobody would get tempted by the glittering lie of solid-looking ice. Penny trotted between them like a furry chaperone with union protections. At the cabin, Luke stopped on the porch. "I should let you get warm," he said. Sam's fingers curled around her coat zipper. Her mouth opened, ready to say the thing she always said when someone offered anything. "You don't have to." "It's fine. Sorry to bother you." Instead, she heard her aunt's voice in her head, gentle and firm. "Don't sell your peace to buy someone else's comfort." Sam met Luke's eyes. "Do you want to come in for a minute?" "I have tea, cinnamon. It's aggressively cozy." Luke's smile was small, like he didn't want to push too far into her space even with her invitation. "If you're sure." "I'm sure," Sam said, and realized she meant it. Inside, the cabin felt different now, warmer, not just from the heater, from the fact that she wasn't alone with her thoughts like they were a swarm of bees. Luke took off his gloves and kept his boots near the door, careful, respectful. Penny immediately reclaimed her spot on the rug and watched them like a tiny, stern grandma. Sam poured 2 mugs of tea, one of them the chipped mug from the coffee table, because the cabin had opinions and apparently it wanted to be included. Luke took it with both hands. "This was June's mug?" Sam's gaze flicked up. "You remember?" Luke nodded. "She used to bring it out to the dock when we set lanterns. Said it made the cold feel less personal." Sam laughed softly, surprised by the warmth that rose in her chest at the thought of her aunt being part of Luke's memories. "She sounds like herself," Sam murmured. Luke looked around again, quieter this time. "It's good you're here." There was no for the town in his tone. No implication that her presence was only valuable if it was useful. Just good. Sam wrapped her fingers around her own mug, feeling the heat seep into her skin. Her phone buzzed on the table like an impatient mosquito. She glanced at the screen. Mara calling. Sam's stomach tightened. Her old pattern surged up like a wave, the urge to answer immediately, to smooth it over before it became a fight, to preempt disappointment with compliance. Luke's gaze drifted to the phone, then back to her face. He didn't ask, he didn't comment.
He simply waited, giving her the dignity of not making it a thing. Penny lifted her head.
Sam stared at the ringing screen. She could almost hear Mara's voice already, layered with helpfulness and pressure. "Don't make this hard. You'll thank me later. Just sign." Sam swallowed. Then she did something radical. She let it go to voicemail. The silence afterward was loud in the best way. Sam exhaled slowly, almost laughing at herself. "That felt illegal." Luke's expression softened. "Did it?" Sam lifted one shoulder. "In my family?" "Yes, I'm pretty sure I just committed a felony." Luke's mouth curved. "You look like someone who's about to get away with it." Sam snorted, then glanced at the paper stack on the table sale documents. Realtor notes, the glossy printout of an offer that had been described to her as too good to refuse. Too good to refuse, her eyes narrowed. "God," she muttered. "I hate that phrase." Luke's voice stayed gentle. "Why?" Sam stared at the papers like they might confess. "Because it always means..." "I'm supposed to be grateful," she said. "Grateful for something that doesn't actually feel good. Grateful because someone else decided it's best." Luke nodded slowly, as if that tracked perfectly. What would feel good? Sam's throat tightened. Time, breath, choice. The truth came out clean, without drama. "I want a week," she said. "At least. I want to be here long enough to know what I'm doing, not just react." Luke set his mug down carefully, like he didn't want to spill anything, tea or courage. "That sounds reasonable," he said simply. Sam blinked. "I don't think anyone said that to me in years." Luke's brows lifted. "Then they've been missing obvious facts." Something in Sam's chest loosened, a knot she hadn't realized she was carrying. Her phone buzzed again. A text. "Mara, are you ignoring me? Call me back. The realtor is waiting." Sam stared at it. And this time she didn't feel fear. She felt clarity. Sam stood, picked up the envelope from Aunt June again, and slid the note out like a talisman. Penny watched her with intense focus. Luke stayed quiet, present. Sam inhaled once. Then she hit call. It rang once, twice. Mara answered immediately, voice already Sam. Finally, what is going on? The realtor said you haven't confirmed. Sam didn't raise her voice. She didn't apologize. She didn't give a speech. She simply spoke like a woman who belonged to herself. Mara, she said calmly, I'm not signing tomorrow. Silence. Then, what? Sam, don't do this. It's a great offer. You don't even live there. You're being... Sam closed her eyes for a half second, letting the words wash past her without sticking. No, she said, still calm. I'm being careful. I'm staying for a week. I'm getting my own inspection and my own assessment. And I'm making my decision on my timeline. Mara's exhale was sharp. You're making it complicated. Sam's grip tightened on the phone, not in anger but in steadiness. I'm making it honest, Sam said. I love you. But I'm not doing the easy for everyone else thing anymore. Mara tried again, softer, more dangerous. I'm just trying to help. Sam looked at the mug in Luke's hands, at Penny's watchful face, at the warm light of the cabin. And she chose herself without theatrics. I know, she said. And I'm helping me. This is my no. Another long silence. Then Mara, still unhappy but quieter. Fine. A week. But don't blame me if the buyer walks. Sam's mouth lifted into a small, fierce smile. I won't, Sam said. Because I'm not afraid of that anymore. She ended the call before her courage could get negotiated. The cabin seemed to exhale with her. Sam lowered the phone, hands trembling not from fear, but from adrenaline. Like she just stepped off a ledge and realized she could fly. Luke's gaze held hers steady. He didn't clap. He didn't say she was brave like she was a child who'd tied her shoes. He simply said quietly, good. Sam laughed, breathless. Is it weird that I want to cry and also do a victory lap? Luke's mouth curved. Not weird. Penny stood, waddled over and nudged Sam's knee with her nose like, finally. Took you long enough. Sam looked down at her. I know, she whispered.
I know. Luke's voice was gentle. Can I?
He lifted his hand slightly, indicating her shoulder, where her sweater had slipped, letting in a cold draft. He asked first. Sam swallowed, heat rushing through her in a way that had nothing to do with the heater. Yes, she said. Luke stepped closer and draped the throw blanket June's knitted one around Sam's shoulders with careful hands. His fingers brushed her collarbone for the briefest second, and Sam's breath hitched like her body had been waiting for kindness that didn't demand payment. Luke didn't linger. He stepped back immediately, giving her space. But the air between them changed, charged, quiet, undeniable. Sam looked up at him. Luke's gaze dropped to her mouth for a fraction of a second, then returned to her eyes like he was asking without words. Sam's heart thudded. Okay, Whitmore. We said one thing at a time, but fine, maybe two things. As a treat, she took one step closer. Luke, she said softly, I'm not looking for promises. Luke nodded once, honest. Me neither. Breath warmed the space between them. Just a moment that feels real. Luke's voice dropped. That I can do. He didn't grab her. He didn't rush. He waited. Sam tilted her face up and closed the last inch herself. Their kiss was slow, deep in that steady way that made Sam feel like her whole nervous system had been waiting for someone who didn't treat intimacy like a performance. Luke's hand came up to her cheek light, permission-based thumb brushing once, like punctuation. Sam's body melted into the warmth of him, the blanket slipping slightly, Penny's unimpressed stare burning a hole in the side of her face. They separated with a soft inhale, foreheads almost touching. Luke's voice was low. You okay? Sam let out a shaky laugh. I'm extremely okay. Luke smiled quiet, satisfied, not possessive. Penny sneezed loudly. Sam glanced at her dog. Yes, yes. We're behaving. Luke's laugh was a soft exhale, and the sound made Sam feel ridiculously safe. Midnight arrived the way it often did in small towns, without fanfare, but with intention. Sam stood near the dock with Penny on her leash and a paper lantern in her hand. The lantern was warm from the candle inside, its light flickering against the snow like it was trying to teach winter how to be gentle. Around them, the townspeople gathered in quiet clusters, bundled up and murmuring. Someone passed around cups of hot cider. Someone's kid whispered too loudly. Someone laughed. It wasn't loud or flashy. It was human. Luke walked beside Sam, not too close, not too far, like he understood that closeness was earned, not claimed. The lanterns began moving down the marked path, a slow stream of light toward the lake. From a distance, it looked like the night itself was learning how to glow. Sam breathed in, cold air filling her lungs, and realized her shoulders weren't up around her ears for once. Penny trotted proudly, tail swaying as if she'd personally organized this event. Luke glanced at Sam. "You made a wish?" Sam blinked. "Is that mandatory? I didn't study." Luke's mouth curved. "Not mandatory. Just offered." Sam looked down at her lantern. All year she'd made wishes like bargains. If I keep everyone happy, maybe I'll feel safe. If I don't ask for much, maybe I won't lose anything. She was tired of bargaining. Sam lifted her gaze to the cabin, barely visible through the trees, its porch light now glowing softly like a heartbeat. She didn't need fireworks. She didn't need a grand resolution. She needed her own voice. Sam exhaled and spoke quietly, not to the town, not to the sky, not to anyone else's expectations. "To choosing myself," she whispered. Luke didn't interrupt. He simply nodded once, like he was witnessing something sacred without trying to own it. The crowd reached the dock. Lanterns bobbed gently. The lake lay quiet beneath the moon, ice-lined like silver at the edges. Someone started counting down, soft, imperfect, real. 10, 9, 8. Sam watched the town's lantern light reflect in Luke's eyes for a moment, and it struck her how his attention never felt like pressure. When the count hit 1, there were cheers, a few whoops, some laughter. A couple of small fireworks popped far away, harmless and brief. Luke turned slightly toward Sam, giving her space to choose. Sam looked at him, at the calm strength of his presence, at the way he waited. She leaned in and kissed him again, gentler this time, like a promise she wasn't afraid to make, not about forever, but about truth. Luke's hand rested at her waist, steady and warm through her coat, not gripping, not claiming. When they parted, Luke's forehead touched hers lightly.
"Happy New Year, Samantha," he murmured. Sam smiled soft and sure.
"Happy New Year, Luke." Penny sneezed again, like she was officially blessing the union. Sam laughed, breath fogging the air. "She approves." Luke's eyes crinkled. "Good, I was nervous." Sam lifted a brow. "You?" "Nervous?" Luke shrugged, unapologetic. "You matter." The words landed in her chest and stayed there. Not because they were romantic. Because they were simple, respectful, true. They started walking back along the lantern-lit path, the town's chatter fading behind them. The snow crunched under Sam's boots in a rhythm that felt like steadiness. She thought of Mara's impatience, of the buyer, of the paperwork waiting. And for the first time, those things didn't feel like a threat. They felt like options. Sam glanced at Luke. "So," she said lightly, "do I get arrested for ignoring my family's timeline? Or is there a permit I need for that?" Luke smiled. "No permit." "But the town might gossip." Sam's laugh was warm. "Let them." Penny trotted ahead, pleased. The cabin's porch light guided them home like a quiet invitation. Sam didn't know if this would last. She didn't know what January would ask of her. But she knew one thing, clean and uncheckable. She hadn't betrayed herself to get here. And that more than any countdown felt like a new year worth entering. Also, note to self, buy more cinnamon tea. Apparently it's my love language now.